Today, you'll learn why you can't willpower your way through anxiety and burnout because your nervous system is driving. We'll unpack direct neurofeedback, why many clients reporting feeling a shift even after one session, and how this fits with meds, therapy, and real life. So stay tuned for the end where you'll have 5 actions that you can try this week. If this helps you, follow The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi on Apple, Spotify, and subscribe on our YouTube at Stacey Chillemi Advisor and drop a 5-star review so more people can find it. Now, today I'm really excited because we have a very special guest on the show today, and her name is Meg Stuppy. She's the founder of Clarity Direct Neurofeedback, helping people calm dysregulation so they can connect and become possible. Meg, I am so excited to have you on the show today. It is a privilege to have you here. Can you tell everybody a little about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Stacey. My name's Meg Stuppy. I founded Clarity Direct Neurofeedback and Los Angeles Neurofeedback Center. And basically, what we do is we utilize direct neurofeedback to help people reset their nervous systems after burnout or trauma. Really excited to be here and kind of share more about what we do.
I love it. Now, when you say you're trying to reach goals with a dysregulated nervous system, like running a marathon or a broken ankle, what does dysregulation actually look like and feel like?
Sure. For people, it can show up in different ways. A lot of how we see it in adults is anxiety, hypervigilance, depression, poor sleep, inability to focus, lack in cognition, just feeling really stressed, regardless of what's going on around them in that moment.
Now, how does the chronic stress or trauma keep the brain stuck in protective patterns like anxiety, burnout, pain, or even brain fog? Because people are always looking for ways to overcome it, and they hear so many different things that they don't really know where to go, what the best results are, and they want to learn more about it. So, can we talk about that and go more in depth about that?
Yeah, when we go through trauma, which could be hitting our head, physical trauma, it could be a specific situation, a traumatic situation, or it could just be prolonged stress. What happens is our brain goes into the sympathetic fight or flight response to help us in that moment deal with the situation at hand. We go into survival mode so that we can deal with the situation, whether it be like getting in a car accident or witnessing something horrible or concussion. So our brain goes into this fight or flight sympathetic overdrive, like putting your foot on the gas pedal. And what happens is after that situation passes, you hope that your brain then re regulates and goes out of that survival and calms down, and the parasympathetic rest and digest boosts. But what
Yeah.
happens sometimes is some of us get stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight, and we're not able to will ourselves out of it. We're not able to talk ourselves out of it. And therefore, what things look like is that you're in this stuck survival mode, which affects every part of your nervous system. So, when that sympathetic nervous system is triggered and you go into that survival mode, and let's say your anxiety is like a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, and your body is now functioning as if there's a bear chasing it. Now, you could tell someone all day long, there's no bear chasing you. But when you feel that there's a bear chasing you and your body is going into that survival mode and your heart rate is increasing, and you have sweaty palms and you're hypervigilant, there's no way to talk yourself down, right? And so when you're living your life at this like 7 or 8 out of 10, everything is going to be perceived by the body as a life or death situation.
Right.
So with direct neurofeedback, what we're doing is we're using an EEG to read brain waves. So sensors are put on your head, reads brain waves, it goes through a system, and a customized microcurrent is sent back through the sensors to the brain directly.
Yes.
And what that does is it's like putting a mirror up to the brain so that it can see where it's off and so that it can re regulate itself and bring that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight, back down to its normal homeostasis, its normal balance.
Okay. Now, what are like 2 everyday signs listeners can spot that say that there is a nervous system problem or not a
Mhm.
motivational problem?
Sure. There there are physiological things like heart palpitations, like I was talking about, out of, in a situation that should be relaxed. You can also see it in like ruminating thinking, circular thinking. That's not helpful. Or
Mhm.
you can't kind of your brain's just going and going and going, and you can try to stop it all day long, but it just keeps on going in unhelpful messages to yourself. You can
Right.
see it with poor sleep.
There's so many people that suffer from that and they just like don't know what to do. I know so
Mhm.
many people that struggle and they just like continuously look for ways to help, themselves. And, for someone who is in a flare today, like what's the first 24-hour step to create a little safety for themselves?
I would say just finding an area where you feel safe, where you can do your best to calm that nervous system.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do when you're out in the world or in an environment where you don't feel safe.
Right. Now, in plain English, like what is direct neuro feedback and how is it different from traditional neurofeedback or brain training?
Sure. So, direct neurofeedback is a type of neurofeedback which allows the brain to re regulate itself. And it's
Hmm.
brain based technology. So, using those sensors, you're able to send signals to the brain that are customized to you
Yeah.
to allow the brain to see where it's imbalanced. And it's different than traditional neurofeedback, or traditional neurofeedback is basically any type of neurofeedback where you're looking at a screen like a video game or you're
Yep.
listening to something. So if you've
Right.
done neurofeedback in the past and you're like, is it traditional? Is it direct? If you were looking at a screen or you were listening to something, then that's traditional neurofeedback. And
Right.
the way that direct neurofeedback is different is that you're totally passive as a client. There's nothing
Hmm.
you need to do in order for it to work.
Right. Now, also, like, can you like walk us through a session? Like, what happens minute by minute? Well, if yeah, like, what do you feel like during the process and after the process?
Sure. Everyone's a little bit different, but typically we have some intake forms that are filled out beforehand just so we know why you're coming in.
Hmm.
It's a 40-minute appointment, so there's plenty of time for questions.
Yeah.
And what we do is we place the sensors on the head. It takes a few minutes to put them on we use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and exfoliators. We put a sensor on each side of the forehead, behind each ear, and the back of the neck. So it takes a few minutes to do. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of assess how the client's feeling in that moment to begin with. And then we'll begin the neurofeedback session. You won't feel anything. The microcurrent that's sent back to the brain is totally imperceptible. It's
Hmm.
much weaker than having a cell phone up to your ear. Often
Right.
clients will say, well, then how can I feel a difference with the neurofeedback and I don't with the cell phone up to my ear? And that's
Yeah.
because the signals that are being sent to the brain are based on that client in that moment. So the feedback is customized. And because of that, the brain recognizes that it's talking to itself or that it's getting signals back that are very similar to what it's outputting. And because of that, typically clients, especially clients with any type of anxiety, will notice a difference most of the time in the first couple sessions. And so the most common ways that clients will feel is maybe a little bit relaxed, maybe a little euphoric sometimes,
Yeah.
and maybe more alert. Everyone's different, like I said, but typically, if a client's coming in with anxiety that's over like a 6 or 7 out of 10, they'll notice a difference.
Right.
Although it will be temporary after the first session, it can last anywhere from like 15 minutes to a few days. And then as you do more sessions, it begins to endure for longer periods of time.
Oh, wow. So, many clients report feeling a difference in one session. Like, what does that typically mean when they feel that difference?
It depends on what they're coming in for, but I would say like the most dramatic is when someone's coming in with high anxiety or PTSD, and they kind of describe it as like a wave, like all of a sudden they just feel like everything kind of calms down, whether that's feeling like heaviness in their hands or their feet or kind of warmth in their face. But they often use the hand signal of just like everything is kind of just coming back down to normal. That parasympathetic relax is able to boost up.
That's amazing. That's totally amazing. Now, when it comes to like safety and side effects, like what should people know? Like who isn't a good candidate and who is a good candidate?
We don't see at Los Angeles Neurofeedback Center clients with epilepsy. As
Mhm.
you know, this is very helpful for
Mhm.
epilepsy, but we're not a medical facility, so we're not prepared for someone with seizure disorder.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, there really is no counterindication. No one has been harmed by a session.
Right.
Really, the worst case scenario, if you're someone who's extremely sensitive, is you could get a headache or feel tired after the first session. Typically, it lasts less than an hour, but in certain circumstances, people have felt like nauseous and tired for the rest of the day.
Mhm.
But
Oh.
yeah, there's really no counterindications other than we don't personally see epileptic clients.
Oh, amazing. Now, when it comes to like meds and therapy, like how does it fit in with existing treatment, and what's the right way to talk to your prescriber about any future like medication changes?
hmm So again, we're not a medical facility, so we never give advice on whether someone should change or stop their medication. However, there
Yeah,
are psychiatrists that will reach out to us who are wanting to decrease their patient's dosage or have them try neurofeedback before putting them on a medication.
yeah,
So those are the cases where we're in communication with, local providers where and they come up with different ways that they want to approach it. We also work at drug and alcohol rehab centers
mhm,
where sometimes the physicians will bring us in to help with detoxing or when they're trying to detox off prescription medications to figure out, where the client is baselined at. So it really depends.
right, right. Now, when it comes to populations that you see, like veterans, entrepreneurs, ASD, ADHD, and chronic pain and trauma and anxiety, like what patterns usually improve first?
I would say anything that's sympathetic nervous system related. So anything that has to do with that fight or flight response.
Gotcha.
So just like calming of the actual nervous system and getting it out of that survival mode, which is seen, with just the body feeling more relaxed,
Yeah.
hypervigilance going down, being able to sleep better, things like that.
I love it. Now, could you share with us like a de-identified story where clarity by neurofeedback changed somebody's, day-to-day life?
Sure, sure. Um, yeah, I can tell you about a client that we're seeing currently, and there have been quite a few people who have come in the last couple months with anxiety after that they said they never had issues with anxiety before until COVID. And
Wow.
now, it's been a few years and they're finding that all of a sudden they have like this overwhelming anxiety with this client. It's leaving home and sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
And, she's like, I've never, ever, ever had this issue before. And so the way I look at her situation is that, COVID was so scary and such a shakeup of everything going on. And are you safe? And are your kids safe? And all these new stressors of how to stay safe. And
Hmm.
so it triggered something in her, and she hasn't really been able to self-regulate properly since. And
Wow.
so for her, after the first session, she noticed that she was just like kind of like dropped down. And it was a familiar feeling. Like she said, I haven't felt this way in years. Like this
Yeah.
is how I used to be every day.
Right.
And so it was pretty dramatic. And for her, she was like, you don't understand, just going to the grocery store in the last few years has just been a whole ordeal where I'm just so hyper vigilant. I'm scared. I have like this fear when I'm in traffic. I have a fear of I need to get home to my kids. Are my kids okay? And
Yeah.
so, just immediately after that first session, she still had some of the thoughts, but her body wasn't reacting in the way that it had been.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I mean, it was just, she was like, I just feel like I'm back to who I was before COVID, where I can handle life.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
amazing. To go through life and to have these emotions and to go through and not being able to change, not, because you don't know how, you don't,
Mhm.
and then, finding something, like neurobiofeedback and being able to actually see those symptoms diminish and go back to your normal self that you once were is just an outstanding feeling. And I don't think, if people, don't deal with this on a daily basis, it maybe might be hard for them to understand. But
Mhm.
when you're dealing with these different illnesses and these different disorders, and it can really change your life and limit you to do a lot of things that you used to love, and to be able to get that all back is just outstanding.
Mhm.
It really is, you
Yeah,
know.
it's significant. I mean, it affects every part of your body when you're stuck in that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, like, for burnout and chronic illness, like, what's the realistic timeline and expectations that people should hold?
Sure. So typically the protocol is 15 to 25 sessions total. Like I said, most clients, especially if they're coming in with anything anxiety related, will notice some changes right away, but they'll be
Yeah.
short-lived. So the first 6 sessions, we recommend they're done in twice a week. So in about over 3 weeks, I would say the results are enduring between sessions.
Yeah.
And then everyone's kind of different with how they space their sessions out. But typically they're completed over about a three month period with tune-ups once or twice a year.
Wow, that's not bad at all. To
Yeah,
be able,
it's
yeah.
much fewer than the traditional neurofeedback where you're looking at anywhere from 60 to 100 sessions.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big difference. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a grab bag of trauma, loss, addiction, legal battles, relationships, family, and building a company, like, what personal practices help keep you going?
Man, for me, like my daily routine is so key. And that involves, meditating, eating properly, journaling first thing in the morning, doing those, especially meditating and journaling as soon as I wake up is so key for me. Um, and right now, I had a baby 3 months ago.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. My personal habits have gone out the window of the things that have been helpful for me over the last decade. And so it's been interesting to see, what I'm able to get away with skipping and what I'm not. And I
Yeah.
will say that I have given myself a few neurofeedback sessions in the last few months. So for me, neurofeedback just really kind of helps me get back on track where I can be working with a somewhat balanced nervous system
Right.
so that I can figure out the next action that's going to be the most helpful for me. But I would say overall in the last 10 years that, yeah, definitely meditation, journaling, and exercise. Exercise is another big one for me.
Yeah, I find those three things are so important to,
Mhm.
really incorporate in your life. If you could take the first 15 minutes out of your morning when you first wake up and dedicate it to maybe journal writing or doing
Mhm.
meditation, it really reframes the whole day. And, it really changes
Absolutely.
your mindset and can really help you, positively, get through the day, and with a different way of feeling, thinking, and it's just wonderful. And exercise, I always tell people that, you don't have to exercise in the gym for like hours. You could 15
Mhm.
minutes, a nice walk somewhere,
Yeah,
that's all you really need. It depending on what you can do and what you can't do, but just something minimum like that could even make a big difference, I think, in someone's life.
absolutely. Taking a walk is a great form of exercise, especially for me right now. I can't do anything too extreme, but just getting outside and walking and being in some kind of nature, I think
Yeah.
is can do wonders.
That's wonderful. And it seems like when it comes to biofeedback, you don't really have to have something major going on. You could feel a little off, and you can go for the therapy, and it really could help you get right back into your frame of mind and the way you were feeling previously.
And what's wonderful about direct neurofeedback is you're able to just try a session without having to do brain mapping. without
Yeah.
having to do much. And typically, if it's a good fit for you, you will notice a difference in the first couple sessions. And that makes it a lot different than the traditional neurofeedback where you need to do, 6 to 8 sessions before you'll even know if it's something that is a good fit.
Right. Oh, I love that. Now, if someone was skeptical but curious, what's one conversation they should have with a provider to vet this, properly?
I would say just, coming in or even having a phone call where you can ask the questions that have you skeptical.
Yeah.
I really just encourage people to come in and try it, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
just come in and try because there's only so much, I don't like trying to convince someone that it works. It's, come in and try it or have a family member try it or a friend try it
Yeah.
who, is dealing with dysregulation in their life. Check out reviews of the clinic that you're thinking of going to, listen to other people's stories.
Yeah, I think it's so important, to people understand and hear other people's stories too, because I think it really helps, get for people that are skeptical, it gains more
Mhm.
confidence, trust in the procedure, which is so important because procedures like this could change lives, and
Mhm.
it's a very valuable procedure. And I don't think enough of people know enough about it. Like they hear about it, but I think learning about it is so important,
Mhm.
because I don't think people know a lot in detail. Oh, I heard about it. And then you ask them what it is, and they're not, so sure, like
Mhm.
they biofeedback or they've heard of biofeedback, but they don't really understand that, what consists of it and the benefits gained from it as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we have information and videos on our websites, Los Angeles Neurofeedbackcenter.com and Clarity Direct Neurofeedback.com. There's some YouTube videos there too, and client testimonials. You'll also find a lot of studies that have been done using neurofeedback and biofeedback over the last few decades. So I'd encourage anyone to, check that out and look at some of the research as well.
I love that. Now, Meg, listeners were promised 5 concrete actions. What are 5 things that they could do this week to start calming dysregulation?
I would say exercise, take a
Mhm.
walk, take a walk around the block, just a 10-minute walk without ear pods in. Take a walk in the afternoon when it's sunny outside, get some sunlight. I would say take a moment to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee without your phone, without looking at a screen. I would say prioritize getting to bed on time,
Yeah.
especially over this holiday season.
Hmm.
I would say take 2 minutes to meditate and just focus on your breathing and longer exhales than inhales help boost that parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
And I think that's four. And I would say nutrition. I mean, try to have some vegetables during Thanksgiving. Have a couple servings of deep leafy greens. Um, do the best you can to enjoy family.
I love that. Now, can you tell everybody about the services that you provide?
Sure. So at Clarity Direct Neurofeedback, we train providers to utilize Clarity Direct Neurofeedback in their practices. So
Hmm.
we sell the equipment and we train. And for Los Angeles Neurofeedback Center, we see clients of all ages for everything from ADD symptoms, decreasing symptoms from ADD, anxiety, PTSD, insomnia. Um, yeah. And so those are the services that we provide for both.
I love that. And can you tell everybody once again where they can find you?
Sure, at Los Angeles Neurofeedbackcenter.com or claritydirectneurofeedback.com. And that's CD Neurofeedback on Instagram.
I love that. And is there anywhere on the social networks also that you are seen on?
Yes, so Instagram and LinkedIn, you'll be able to find us at CD Neurofeedback.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been great. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation that we didn't mention?
Just if anyone has any questions, reach out. send us a message and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the technology and how it could potentially help any symptoms you or a family member is experiencing.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing. I'm so glad you came on the show because it's such an amazing procedure and it could help so many people. And I've seen it help so many people myself
Hmm.
personally. And I just think that so many people need to look into it more, before they, if they're going through this, I think they really should take the time out to look about into, neuro biofeedback because there's so many benefits. And it's a easy, nice, subtle procedure, and it has so many benefits. And I'm so glad that you came on the show to talk about it and inform individuals about it. And I hope that you'll be back and we can talk a little bit more, maybe get into depth about it because I really think people need to learn more about it and understand it and really learn all the benefits because it comes with so many benefits and it helps so many different things. And just like you mentioned, you felt a little off one day and you did a procedure on yourself and you felt, it made you feel so much better. This is a great opportunity for people to find a natural way to really improve their overall mental health and physical health because we all know that when our mental health is disrupted, it affects our physical health. So it's so important to make sure that we take care of ourselves in all areas of our lives. And neurobiofeedback is a one of them that could really help somebody really change their overall, health in all aspects. So I thank you so much for sharing this and for doing what you're doing. And congratulations on your baby too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And I look forward to answering any questions anyone might have.
Well, I'm so glad you came on the show. Thank you. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.